A man stands alone in a workshop in Florence, Italy. It is 1490. He is sketching a human body, not to admire it, not to worship it, but to understand it. He maps muscles like rivers on a landscape. He draws bones the way an engineer draws load-bearing walls. He is not a saint. He is not a priest. He is just a man who believes that looking closely enough at the world might reveal its deepest secrets. His name is Leonardo, and the world he is about to help build will become the one you live in now. Before Leonardo, before any of it, imagine Europe not as a civilization rising, but as one barely surviving. It is the mid-1300s. A plague called the Black Death has just erased roughly 1/3 of the entire European population, somewhere between 25 and 50 million people, gone in under a decade. Entire villages abandoned, fields untended, mass graves dug faster than prayers could be said over them. The medieval world is cracking at its foundations. And what holds the rest together? Two things: the feudal lord above you and the church above him. In this world, you do not question the order of the cosmos. The earth is the center of the universe. God's hierarchy is fixed. Your place in it is fixed. Your worth is determined by birth. Your curiosity, if it reaches too far, can get you killed. This is the world that the Renaissance will demolish. But it doesn't start with a revolution. It starts with money. The Medici effect. Florence, Italy, early 1400s. A banking family called the Medici has become quietly and then very loudly the most powerful financial institution in Europe. At their peak, the Medici Bank operates branches in 16 cities: London, Bruges, Geneva, Rome. They finance popes. They finance kings. And with that money, they do something no feudal lord or bishop would have thought to do. They fund artists. Cosimo de' Medici, who takes control of the family in 1434, turns Florence into a laboratory. He imports Greek manuscripts being smuggled out of a crumbling Byzantine empire. He funds a Platonic academy where philosophers can actually debate ancient ideas, ideas the medieval church had buried for centuries. He commissions sculptures, chapels, architecture, not as acts of pure vanity, but as acts of statement. Human beings are capable of beauty. Human beings are capable of greatness. Human beings are worth celebrating. His grandson, Lorenzo the Magnificent, takes this further. Lorenzo personally spots a teenage sculptor, rough-handed, socially awkward, barely 14, working in his garden school. He invites the boy to live in the Medici Palace, gives him a room, gives him a seat at the dinner table, gives him access to the greatest minds in Florence. That boy is Michelangelo Buonarroti. The Titans. Michelangelo does not think of himself as a painter. He tells anyone who will listen he is a sculptor. Stone is what he understands. Stone is where God lives, he says. You find the figure inside the marble, and you simply remove everything that isn't it. By 1501, he takes a 17-foot block of flawed white marble that two previous sculptors had abandoned as unworkable, and carves David. Not the boy David of the Bible, but a man, tense before battle, every muscle ready, every vein visible. A human body rendered with a precision that will not be matched for generations. Then Pope Julius II orders him to paint a ceiling. The Sistine Chapel. 4 years. Lying on his back on wooden scaffolding 68 feet above the floor. Over 300 individual figures. He completes it in 1512. And when the scaffolding comes down, even Michelangelo's rivals go silent. One of those rivals is Raphael, 20 years younger than Leonardo, a decade younger than Michelangelo. Where Michelangelo is tortured and solitary, Raphael is charming, prolific, obsessed with harmony and grace. His School of Athens, painted between 1509 and 1511 for the Vatican, places the ancient Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle at the center of a grand architectural space, surrounded by mathematicians, scientists, and thinkers. It is a declaration. Human knowledge is sacred. Reason is divine. And then there is Leonardo. Leonardo da Vinci is born illegitimate in 1452 in the Tuscan town of Vinci, which immediately bars him from most respectable professions. What does he do with that rejection? He becomes everything: painter, architect, engineer, anatomist, botanist, musician. He dissects over 30 human corpses to understand how the body actually works. He designs a flying machine, a proto-helicopter, in the 1480s, roughly 400 years before the Wright brothers. His notebooks, written in mirror script from right to left, contain ideas so far ahead of their time that some weren't understood until the 20th century. The Mona Lisa takes him 4 years, maybe longer. He carries it with him, refining it, until he dies in 1519. He finishes almost nothing, and yet what he leaves behind changes everything. The science awakens. The artists are asking, what does the human body actually look like? And almost simultaneously, the scientists start asking, what does the universe actually look like? In 1543, the same year he dies, Nicholas Copernicus publishes On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres. His argument is simple and detonating. The Earth is not the center of the universe. The sun is. Every institution of power in Europe has staked its authority on the opposite claim. Copernicus knows this. It is why he waits until he is dying to publish. Andreas Vesalius publishes his masterwork the same year, 1543, a detailed anatomical atlas of the human body based on actual dissections. The medieval understanding of anatomy had been copied from a Greek physician named Galen, who had never once cut open a human body. Vesalius cuts open hundreds. What he finds contradicts Galen on hundreds of points. What he finds is the truth. And then comes Galileo. Galileo Galilei points a telescope at the night sky in 1610 and sees moons orbiting Jupiter, not Earth, Jupiter. If other planets have moons, if not everything revolves around us, then Copernicus was right. The Church charges him with heresy, forces him to recant, places him under house arrest for the last decade of his life. But the observation cannot be unobserved. The idea cannot be unthought. The universe has changed size, and so has the human being standing inside it. The ripple. In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg builds a printing press in Mainz, Germany. By 1500, there are over 1,000 printing presses operating across Europe, over 15 million books in circulation, in a continent where, a century earlier, a single book could represent a lifetime of a monk's labor. Ideas that would have died in a monastery now cross borders in weeks. Copernicus's theory, Vesalius's atlas, the political philosophy of Machiavelli, the theological protests of Martin Luther, who nails his 95 Theses to a church door in 1517 and within months has copies circulating across the continent. The printing press does not just spread the Renaissance, it accelerates it, democratizes it, makes it impossible to stop. And what comes next? The Reformation, the early roots of democratic thought, the scientific revolution, the age of exploration, the Enlightenment, a chain of transformation that leads, link by link, to the world as you know it. The turning point. Here is the thing that shook the medieval world to its foundation and has never stopped shaking. Before the Renaissance, the dominant question was, what does God want? After it, a new question enters the room. And it doesn't leave. What can a human being do? That shift, that single seismic shift in what humans believed themselves to be capable of, that is the Renaissance. Not the paintings, not the science, the belief. The idea that one person armed with curiosity and skill and a willingness to look directly at the world can change it. Leonardo believed it. He spent his life proving it, one unfinished masterpiece at a time. Copernicus believed it quietly, right up until the moment he died. Michelangelo believed it while lying on his back, painting angels into a ceiling, his neck destroyed, his eyes going bad, paint dripping onto his face. They weren't myths. They were people, stubborn, flawed, driven people who decided that the world as it was given to them was not the world as it had to be. What it means. We call it the Renaissance, literally, rebirth. But that framing undersells what actually happened. It wasn't a return to something old. It was the invention of something new, the individual as a force of history, the human mind as a tool capable of reshaping reality, the idea that art and science and knowledge are not gifts from authority, they are responsibilities of the living. Every scientific breakthrough since, every work of art that made you feel something you couldn't name, every political document that begins with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident," they are downstream of what happened in Florence, in Rome, in the notebooks of a man born outside of wedlock in a Tuscan hill town who believed that if you looked hard enough at a bird's wing, you could understand flight. He was right. The Renaissance didn't just change what people made, it changed what people believed they were. And that raises a question worth sitting with. If one era, fueled by plague, poverty, and a handful of obsessed individuals, could reinvent human civilization, what does that say about the era we're living in right now?